Hey, you guys, thanks for tuning in to the Diva Hustle Show. I'm here with Dave Pamah. He's an author, he's a retired firefighter, and also a podcast for the Dave Palmer Show. Thank you, Dave, for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, Pam. This wonderful warm evening. I'm out in the Philippines at the moment, so I'm actually enjoying it here because the COVID's getting really bad in the UK. It's growing rapidly, getting back on the second wave, and not much the same. Just a little typhoon coming over. So yeah, just enjoying the barbecues that I see every day, and the swimming pool and beach life. Yeah, it's quite nice here.
Now, are they talking about lockdown again over there in the Philippines?
Not really. No, they've actually reduced it, relaxed it a lot because they're trying to balance it with the economy. And to be honest, it's great numbers in terms of the Southeast Asian situation, but not globally. It's not the same as Europe and North America or India or Brazil, if you like. But to be honest, they do need to make sure they keep on top of it because it's one of the countries that's been quite tricky with reducing it. They're having a problem reducing it, even though it's small numbers in comparison. So you do have to be careful anyway with any kind of disease, that comes up. It doesn't matter how bad it is. You just got to be careful out there, haven't you?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You see right now, even in the United States, we have cases rising. I know France and Germany, they're going back down under lockdown.
They're going full lockdown now, yeah.
Yeah, full lockdown.
France especially, but yeah.
Yeah, and Canada, they're already back in full lockdown. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had an interview last week, and the young lady was in Canada. She was like, "We're already locked down."
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
The cases were spiking. So it's like you just sitting there waiting.
I suppose we're going to see more Drake songs because all Drake seems to be doing lockdown is banging out music after one track after another. A bit like me and my podcast, and I've just put one after another. It's almost daily, sometimes twice daily. So I thought I'd get rid of Drake, but you keep hearing Drake's tracks, new ones coming up every day.
I know. I'm like, yo, how are they doing that during lockdown? You know what I mean? And then he just had a birthday party.
He must have a studio in his house. Yeah,
he has to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's good. There's always this is saying in business. There's an opportunity in every crisis, and it's true. So whatever's happening, there's an opportunity somewhere else, isn't there? So
right.
Business as usual, I guess.
Business as usual. So let's talk about Dave. So understand that as a child you were bullied. So can you give us?
Yeah.
So how you were? So explain to me. So can you give us some stories about the bullying and how you overcame it?
To be honest, I think when I found out about my dyslexia when I was 40 years old, I know a lot of the teasing. When you look at some of the things and you look at the patterns, because you look at patterns of, you're trying to now take the test for dyslexia, blah, blah, blah. And if you're an adult, you think, that's what happened to me at school, and that's how I reacted to it, and this is what's going on here. So I know that the bullying, if I had known about it, I probably would have, the other thing is that growing up then, the teachers didn't really do much about the bullying, so there wasn't much being done about it. So it was easy to be bullied. But I think it was mostly to do with that and, my traits that I had together with the dyslexia. And of course, there was a lot of racism as well, but that was, that the bullying, anyone can do that, being teased for something, for whatever reason, then that's, we used to tease people with spectacles. Now I'm wearing glasses, but I wasn't wearing reading glasses. But before I was, really teasing people with it, thinking it was fun, when I was at school, because I wasn't. Anyway, it's just, it turned nasty, and I got in a few fights with it, and some things happened that shouldn't have happened. And anyway, it's kind of as simple as that.
So I understand you was a firefighter for 25 years. What made you decide to become a firefighter?
Yeah, I thought about it. It's one of the things I thought about at school. I was also into sports. I did track and field. So, fitness is one of the things that you needed to sort of get prepared to get through the job description, if you like, one of the tests that you had to do. So all round, it's just something I felt I wanted to do, really, to help people. Just liked the idea of that job more than being a cop. I'm not saying I'm enough. I've got a few friends that are well, and white. There's a few that I know that are cops in the UK. It's probably slightly different to what it was, when I was growing up. And I don't think many black people, with the tension, which is kind of what's going on in the US. So in terms of looking at a job that was helping people, in the emergency services or whatever, that, firefighting really appealed to me. And,
now, as a firefighter, did you ever experience any type of like racism from other firefighters?
Yeah, I'd have to say I did, definitely. Verbally, it's kind of like, it was like an old boys club in terms of, and you had a mixture of people, but actually you was allowed to discriminate. This is the job market in general. Just like the civil rights movement, you couldn't sit next to someone, black and whites couldn't sit next to each other on a bus. You couldn't get certain jobs. It was like that in the UK. It wasn't written in law. Black people can't do this job and can't sit. You could mix, but employers were allowed to say, I don't want to employ that person because they're black. I don't want this person coming to my nightclub or my bar because they're black. Until 1976, they wrote it in law to say, no, you can't. That's against the law to do that now. Mm-hmm. So when I joined the fire service, there were people that were employed with that, and the attitudes as well that came with it, that I've also experienced some bullying there as well. It's kind of like a school, almost like school kind of kids thing, really, playground again, But yeah, I did it. I'm not saying everyone was racist, but I did experience some of that, really.
Wow, yeah, because I know
some of the comments.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, some of the comments, and it's just a way you could see the discrimination hidden in certain ways, and some of it was kind of like blatant, where they were almost like say, right, okay, well, all my powers are going to do this, but you're not included here, that kind of thing,
Wow, that's unfortunate. And also, like I know my cousin, he's a firefighter, and he was telling me, like, he has experienced racism even to this day as a firefighter. So that's why I asked, like,
He would know exactly what I'm talking about, because I wrote my dissertation on racism in the fire service, but I did it from policies from the European Union, which Britain's leaving now. It's the EU, it's like saying USA, and how it's not really, how it gets accepted with harassment and bullying, particularly towards racism, black firefighters on the ground, in the fire station. So he'll know what I'm talking about, because when I did my research, I was looking at American firefighters and some of the things I was reading when I was doing my dissertation, when I studied politics, and because that was my area I was looking at, which drove me to it. So I knew there was stuff with the articles I've seen from what firefighters are doing. I knew that racism, it's in a similar way, because it's the same job. You're going to experience the same kind of thing. You're around the same kind of equipment, the same kind of work ethics, work kind of routines. So you'll experience the same kind of thing really going on. So I know now in the UK, so it's still Black History Month, right? It is, yeah. Tomorrow's the last day of it, but yeah.
And so can you explain why in London that y'all celebrate Black History Month in October versus why we celebrate it in February?
I can't. I did find that because also Canada's in February as well, and I'm thinking, why is ours in October? There probably is a reason for that, why it can't be in February, and I haven't really looked into that. Because I don't see why it shouldn't all be the same globally, really.
Well, I know when I did some research, it was stating that it would have something to do with the leaders, and so like they would celebrate the leaders during that month in October versus picking a specific month. But also, I mean, if you could just elaborate on some of how the different cultures of how the United States policies and procedures, even when it comes to racism and protesting, is affecting you over in the Philippines and London. Because I mean, we got the election coming up, right?
Yeah. So that question, just again, how's what affecting me in the Philippines?
So how is it the policies and procedures, even with the Black Lives Matter movement, is affecting London and also Philippines?
Right. There hasn't been much said here in the Philippines, except there are a lot of mostly Black Americans here. There is a few from the UK here, like me, an expat, if you like. But I've actually been going to London and Philippines, equally. It's only since the lockdown. I was supposed to go back to London. I'm still here, but so while I'm here, I didn't really notice much in terms of, there has been no protests about it. People spoke about it, but not to a real extreme, because what especially the Black Americans say here is, wow, there's no racism here. That's what they say when they come here, which is why I spoke to you off air just now about Nizzy's Philippine song. And I'm thinking it's true, but except he might, with the drugs he's put on there, he might get in trouble from the president here because it's got a war on drugs. But everything else is true, what he's written there. But obviously he's written it in his own kind of, from his what he sees, his world, But so that's why there wasn't much said about it, because it's more to do with poverty here and some corruption. The poverty is only because of the corruption here, really, because it's actually a very rich country. It's got a very high GDP. In London, it's similar to US, the racism, but not as severe, with the brutality of the police blatantly in front of your eye, because you would be seeing videos already. There has been videos, but not, and maybe back in the days there was as much brutality. Secondly, we don't carry guns anyway, but knife crime is just as bad, so. So you can't really cancel that out. But the protest has been taken as very seriously as it is, in Washington, in Philadelphia. Well, there's stuff going on at the moment in Philly, isn't there?
Yeah. We just had, unfortunately, another young man that was killed by the police officer. He had suffered with mental illness, and again, just another black man killed by a police officer, and there's no justice.
And exactly what the family said is, why wasn't a taser used? If they had to do something. And the same for most cases. It's like, you don't need to shoot someone. When we're hearing those pops, and I'm not from the US, it might be a normal thing for you to hear the pops all the time. We don't hear gunshots all the time, Maybe in Jamaica there's gunshots everywhere, but it's a different kind of thing going on there. But the thing is that I just can't believe hearing the gunshots and the amount of cuts around one person in all these cases.
Right.
And of course
we haven't had any justice, right? So
no, there's no justice. So there's
been no justice.
Real concern. It's a real concern, and I know it's about systemic racism as much as it is about police brutality and racism from the police system. Because I'm not blaming one police officer against another. There are racist cops just as much as now you kind of brought up about the racism experience. You put is it your cousin you said?
Yeah, my cousin.
It's a firefighter. Yeah, so he will tell you what he's told you is probably what I can tell you. If he tells a story, I can say, yeah, and this happened to me, blah, blah, blah. Be very similar, Just I didn't really want to write too much about it in my book because it's a personal development book, you see. Except I did write, that I did experience some harassment, but I didn't want to divert from what audience I'm speaking to. So, but in a podcast, you can say what you want, can't you? So yeah.
I know you wrote the book, Fighting from Within. So what decided to make you write the book? How did you come
quite a lot of things. Quite a lot of things. Because I was studying this politics degree, which I wrote. I managed to. I wasn't really into writing or reading too much at the time. I'm not saying I couldn't read and write, but it just wasn't my. Then I realised why when I found out I had dyslexia in my final year, I would not have got my degree as a mature student. That is. Until I got diagnosed and got all the software and the help, the tutors and everything else to get me this dissertation done. And I had a really understanding supervisor who gave me the stuff for my dissertation, the pointers. So it all worked out quite well. And then I said what I needed to say, but you can't, what it's like in academic, you have to use what they're teaching you and put. So I couldn't say it outspoken like like you would in a civil rights,
Right.
Protest. You can't make your paper into a protest. It's kind of like academic, and I'm not really, that's not. So anyway, straight after that, I thought, I reckon I can write a book. And then Facebook started coming out from there, and then I was networking with a lot of people. And then there's a motivational speaker in Arizona who knew some athletes I knew when I was an athlete, track athlete. She was as well. So she said, I'll help you write the book. And I thought, yeah, there's a good book in everyone. That's the saying, isn't it? So I thought, well, the dissertation was hard enough. The book, I can just put what I want. And, I was having a stab at doing some blogging. I was starting to get, get used to Facebook. And then I was thinking of YouTube. I started doing some videos, but I didn't become a YouTuber, if you like. Podcasting was more my thing. I thought, I had a good face for the radio. So, my face fitted the radio. So, anyway, the book was part of it, and I was into coaching, but more from the track and field. And then I was mentoring in the fire service some firefighters, as a trade union leader as well. There was a union learning rep, so it's kind of a bit more like coaching and mentoring, So that just got me into the type of book I wanted to write, which is more of a coaching, self-improvement book, than a book about a protest, which my dissertation was a bit more like that. It spoke about racism, politics.
Okay.
So it kind of went away. But yeah, so that's what got me to write the book, and how I got help writing it. Really was someone else who knew what I was struggling with. Helped me write it, and she put some of her own chapters in there because she's partially deaf. I think she's fully deaf actually. So it helped because I was talking more about the dyslexia then, because I was trying to deal with that, at the age of adult.
And so can you just explain to some of our listeners who might not know like what dyslexia is and the disability?
Dyslexia is just it's a learning disability in terms of processing information. Sometimes it affects your short-term memory. Everyone has a short-term memory, and to get scientific, it's like you can remember up to 5 objects plus 9 or plus 2 either way or whatever. So mine's kind of affected a bit in terms of reading and writing, And some people have, obviously, the common thing is having difficulty spelling. Well, that has, and reading as well. So mine is more reading in terms of processing my information. So the more academic it is, I'm having a problem now with the comprehension. And so it can get complex because everyone has a mixture of difficulties with that, with what I'm saying. Right. But I just gave you the 2 basic stuff in terms of processing information, short-term memory, which, there is a long-term and short-term memory.
But the good part is that, but the good part is that there's technology out to help you with the disability. That's the
technology, exactly. Yes, right, exactly. Yeah. So that's what helps me a lot. Well, thank God for spell checker anyway. And when anyone can use a spell checker, it's not just people without it. But for me, I'm not really someone who can read. I am sort of. I can understand now why I'm not into reading and writing too much, because it's hard work. It's hard work, It's like driving with the handbrakes on. It's much harder than having it off, So the processing.
So what was the process when you was writing the book? Like, did you just take it chapter by chapter?
I did have a go at blogging, and then Heidi Hargrave's the name of the woman who helped me with it, and she pulled some of the blogs out, and I said, well, this is what I want. I gave her the concepts and a list of how I wanted the chapters, which I took from a ex-basketball player in the US who wrote a book, and she's a motivational speaker now as well. So I took some of those ideas and thought, well, I'm going to do my chapter like that, but obviously put in, my story. And then she said, can I contribute to it? Because I thought, yeah, you can, because that's better than paying a ghostwriter. I can't afford it. So, I did that. And then it worked out much cheaper to do that. And because she's a motivational speaker, she knew what to write in it to help with the ideas I gave her, and some of my blogs that she used. Some of it was untouched, some of it she edited out and padded it to make into a book, rather than just a piece of something I wrote on a status on Facebook. It's not. She made it more professionally looking. So that's how it worked out anyway. And then I went to Balboa Press, which has got a bit of a bad press because some of these vanity press publishers just take your money and they don't really do much. They promise certain things. I took a basic package because I didn't want to go on Amazon. It was too much for me. So, when I was retiring from the fire service, I just had a bit of cash from my, the pension that I got, the lump sum bit, and then just thought, well, let's just throw a bit of cash there because I want to do some motivational speaking when I leave and do this. It didn't work out, and I can't do it now anyway, but the podcasting did, So the YouTube, and that was another idea, and that didn't really go far either. So I'm really more known now as a podcaster, really, rather than a speaker. And then hopefully the idea of the book was to get me speaking gigs. It wasn't so much to be a Stephen King or an author that is well known. I don't know.
So what advice, because we have a lot of people, right? Even now during these times, during these trying times that we're overcoming with the pandemic, so many people are like rattling ideas. Like, I could write a book. What advice would you give to people that's considering writing a book?
I would say exactly what I did, except if you are freely someone who can write. I envy people that can just sit down and write stuff and it looks polished and professional. I mean, it's different when I was writing my exams for my degree, because it was kind of like you just put in what they want to see. But the thing is that, to put it in a polished book, and there are writers that are really talented like that. I can't do that. But you can go through a cover author, or if you know someone who's an editor that's a friend, get them to help you in that way. So for me, it's a writing bit that was difficult, because obviously I had everything in my head, what I wanted to say. But I say go ahead and do it. Do what I did in terms of get the concept. It's the concept and the structure of the episodes you want to put through. Do that. And if you don't want to spend a lot of money, there's nothing wrong with putting it on Amazon, using their... you can write a book and actually put it on Amazon, publish it through Amazon. And a lot of people do that. But I did it through one of these, as I say, it was a good... Balboa Press is all right, because they're attached with a company called Hay House, which is it's the biggest self-help, because my book's like a self-improvement book. Okay. So it's huge. So there were links with them. I didn't mind, but of course they had bad press in the past with what they promised and didn't deliver.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but the other thing is, if you want to become, I mean, these days, especially if you're a motivational speaker, they prefer to self-publish anyway. Most people do. They're doing that kind of work, or coaching, which is what I'm doing. Self-publishing, it used to, it didn't used to get a good name, but now it's fine. It's a bit like podcasting. It's grown and huge now. Like your radio station. It's independent stuff now. Independent writers, book authors, and radio stations and podcasters is now a good thing on the internet.
Right.
Right. So self-publishing is a good route to go down. But if you want to go to a publisher, I think the process is you need to find an agent, a literary agent, and then so that, I think that's hard in itself. But if you do find one, then that's kind of like a lot of hard work done for you. But then you've got to really have the work, the manuscript already done, all the idea. If it's non-fiction, like in other words, if it's facts rather than a story like a novel, then you don't need the manuscript. You just need the kind of concepts, all written down, a bit like how I did, and gave it to Heidi to sort of pad out for me together with my little bits of scrappy, blog ideas. But if it's a novel, a fiction, then you need this manuscript, and then an agent will go around with their contacts and try and get you the biggest publishing house. That's probably when you do need to. I think that would work out better than doing it on Amazon when you do that.
Right.
But
so,
I don't think.
So, what's your favorite music? Who are you listening to now? What's your favorite music or favorite artist?
My favorite artist. I listen to a lot of sort of older school. I don't have a favorite one at the moment, but older school. Like today, I came across I was just going through my news feed. I'm not one of these people that scroll on my social media. Sorry, it's social media. But I did today, and came across someone called Sade, who's a UK singer. I thought, wow, I used to like her. So I just listened to that. But there wasn't any kind of real favourite. I think maybe when I was, growing up, there was as such. But I do listen to a blend of reggae, soul, and R&B and hip hop mostly. But I think I spoke to you off here, and I'm saying that you can't miss any of Drake's songs these days, can you? It's like what's he doing on lockdown? Is he just sleeping and breathing in the recording studio? It's like, but his last one he did with DJ Khaled anyway, so
I mean,
Yeah,
I just see Drake. He's on every new artist come out, they have a song with Drake, right? And
yeah,
then it's like he dropped his album, and then I think even recently he had a birthday, and they were talking about how he had macaroni and cheese with raisins in it. So it's like he's always just having his name out in the forefront, so
no.
that you will never be like, "What happened to Drake?" You know what I mean? Which is
I
good.
think, yeah, I was going to say, it's a good marketing thing he's doing, but obviously he's keeping himself busy. Maybe, I think he was putting loud music out anyway before that, but
Hmm.
even more so now. It's like, you can't say where's he getting the time, because a lot of people have got time in their hands with what's going on around the world at the
Yeah,
moment. So yeah,
yeah,
good
that's
on him
true.
really to do that. So to be honest, I've been doing a lot of podcasting. I was aiming for once a week, and sometimes I'm doing it twice in one day. And putting them out there. It's almost 6 days a week. So I'm trying to go up a level with my coaching now, because that's starting to
Okay.
push through now as well. And I've got someone who's into digital marketing might be able to help me out here. So that's how I'm going to monetize it as well. Really, even with some of my affiliates that I've got, trying to attract some sponsors. I've had a couple that's approached me that wanted me to do it, but they said they can only send the stuff. They wanted me to wear their t-shirts and everything, and they can only send the stuff out in London, but not in the Philippines at the moment.
Oh, I
Stuff
think
like.
that's
And I said,
awesome.
well,
Now,
well,
what kind of coaching you doing?
fitness and life coaching, really. So it's kind of like
Okay.
self improvement, fitness and personal development, that kind of thing. And then I'm also my coach doing some audio on the mindfulness app, which is like helping with stress management and sleep, because they're very important things. And I'm also on a fitness app. I'm a personal trainer on a fitness app called Workout
Okay.
Trainer. So that's new to me. So I've just yet to provide my training programs and workouts. And then I'm supposed to, a bit like Facebook, you update your photos and your status, and then people follow you. People follow you. It's kind of like, it's called social coaching, but it's really an app. And you're one of the fitness trainers, the experts on that app, and I'm one of those. So
So
um,
how important would you say, even now as we're dealing with COVID and you're being a fitness coach and a life coach, is it self-care is so important right now?
self care is very important. Even for myself, I've kind of had to tweak a few things myself, even. But because really, you're hearing about even more things that the doctors are saying, that I'm thinking, well, as a fitness, because my fitness came from really sports and fitness. Then it became health when obviously stress started kicking in. The sort of kind of, if you've got a cousin that's a firefighter, kind of politics it, as well as on the job, it can also catch
Hmm.
up with you, because you don't even think you're going to get stressed from it, but you are.
Right, right.
Anyway, so it became more of a health thing because I had some health issues. Now with
Hmm.
COVID, just a few things about the immune system. I found out a bit more, and although that you have to take certain vitamins, I learned a bit more about vitamin D and how it's absorbed, and luckily I'm catching the sun, more times. But
Yeah,
there are other
yeah.
ways to get it. You need to get the test from the doctor, but there are certain things, apart from the obvious, that can affect your immune system. So it's a case of self care.
Right.
Some of it isn't me as a life coach or a fitness coach say go and do this, because it's the obvious things they're saying: wear a face mask, social distance
Hmm.
yourself. Where most people would know that anyway. In general, if someone's sneezing with the flu or something that is bad, you're not going to go near them all the time, are you? You're going to automatically think. But because of the COVID, when I first heard that it was highly contagious and that you don't even have the symptoms for days or even a week, I
Right.
knew there was going to be problems. When they said that, when it was only in China at the time, it's still contained in China. They found out that part. I thought there's going to be problems. Now you don't know who to go
Wow.
around, because it's like you don't know they're carrying it. You see, so this
Right,
is this is the
right.
thing. Because when people are saying, because some people say, no, I don't believe in this COVID stuff. I've come across people like that, and there's protests. Like in America,
Hmm.
there's people are skeptic against it.
Yes,
And the thing
yes.
is, the only people that's saying no, stay home, blah blah blah, are the scientists and the doctors. They know what's going on, and I can see
Right.
what's going on. As soon as I heard that part, where if if it's highly contagious, and you don't know they're carrying it, it's going to be worse than the flu. And also, people are
Right.
going to end up in hospital because of the breathing problems. You need to be in hospital to get the ventilation, or whatever. So it's not like the flu in terms of the flu. You can just stay at home and ride it out, can't you?
Hmm. Hmm.
So in terms of self care, it's more the attitude as well of people, and how they're really their attitudes about it, and what they're saying. Really, you need to really research it. But otherwise, yeah, just make sure if you can't naturally get the vitamins, like say vitamin D, make sure you do take the supplements. Fitness is important. I know one of the things they're using it as a political tool against what's going on in the States, but one of the things obviously is to keep yourself in shape, and internally, your body, just look at that, really, the cardiovascular system. So it's more to it than that. But I don't want to get complicated with it. I try and keep it simple. Just keep fit and eat a balanced diet that will keep you healthy, really.
So Dave, what do you have? Where are you working on next? What would you like our audience to check out that you have coming up in the future?
Yeah, well, keep listening to my podcast. There are some great guests that comes up almost every week. Really, there's a few. I can't say there's anything big happening in terms of what's already, the guests I've already had, including yourself, Pam. You've been on twice with my chat, which is good. Obviously, you've got this big election coming up next week, so I've had a few guests that's actually had their say about Donald Trump. So, both sides, I suppose, but But yeah, I'm now trying to push my coaching through and actually, have people have a look at that as well. So I'm working on that side now. So hopefully people can check that out. They'll see the profile, my coaching profile on some of the coaching listing. That'll be on my website, davepalmer.com. Website blog, really. It's more like a blog, really. But, so those are the two main things.
If you had to vote today, who would you vote for, Donald Trump or Biden?
Oh, of course, Trump, any day. I've always been, if I think in your country, you call it more liberal. I'm if I look at where I'm coming from all the time, it will shift back to more that side, I'm glad in a way that Biden chose Harris as his running, as the vice president candidate. I think she'll do a lot of good things. I know she didn't do too well when she was going for the primaries, for the Democrat primaries. But I'm hoping anyway, because you don't know what might come out. But I couldn't carry on the third term. There's only 2 terms you can do. And I think in terms of the vice president to get it balanced, that would be the mindset that I would have. So certainly Biden.
Why you feel she's a good choice?
Just mainly because of her background, really. Because of her background, I mean, she's also got a good view in the world internationally as well. I mean, I think she still is a district attorney, isn't she? So she has a good idea of the justice system and what she's been saying about how the change should be made. Is working in favour of what's happening with what Black Lives Matter is protesting about. She'll certainly do a hell of a lot more than Trump. What's the vice? Yeah. So I think that's the area that she needs to look at. But I think internationally, she's mixed like me. Half. I'm not. My dad was Indian Mauritian, which is on the Indian Ocean, which is near 4 hours away from South Africa. Okay. But my mum's from the Caribbean, a smaller island than Jamaica. So so I know the kind of mixed view she would have in the world in terms of her upbringing, and she's even been to both countries, and I just think that hearing her talk, although she almost got crushed in the primaries, I think she'll do a great job in terms of vice. Anyway, at least vice, certainly better than your vice president now that you've got currently at the moment. Anyway. So yeah, I think he made a good choice. There might have been another choice that would have been better, but looking at it from an international relations point of view and what's going on, what I can see as an outsider to America, and also understanding America's problems, just like I can, empathise from what UK's problems have been. I can see that working really myself, and her knowledge of the justice system and siding on the side of what can be done. With the criminal justice system and what's going on now with systemic racism. Okay. But of course, she still might not see eye to eye, with what Black Lives Matter might need. That's what happens in politics.
Right.
Some people. There's some. I think I had a chat with you last time. Was it you I spoke to? I can't remember. Saying how Barack Obama. Yeah, it was you. Also got criticised.
Oh yeah.
I know he didn't. Some people said he didn't do as much as he could have done for the Black community, but it's because you can only do so much as president because of the way the system is.
Right.
Whatever he put through Congress, which was Republican at the time, could throw it back out. So it's things like that. And then you mentioned about the judge that got arrested and stuff like that. So this same problem might happen with Harris and Biden as well.
I mean, you know what? It can happen. The thing about it is, right? You got 4 years. So they got 4 years to prove to the the citizens of the United States that they can do the job and they can better, they can advance us where we need to be. They can change policies and make our lives better. And at the end of the 4 years, if it don't work, you vote them out again. You know what I mean? That's how the
that's right. Yeah.
So that's how the election is.
It more or less. It more or less. Although in the UK, we call it the Prime Minister, but she can or he can go for as many terms as they want. They can. Well, we had one, Margaret Thatcher. Her name was. I think she did about 11 years in power.
Wow.
But the elections do come up that frequent. Sometimes you can call an election within a year or 2 years. I think we've had about 3 elections in about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
We've had three prime ministers since 2016.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's every country have their different thing. In the Philippines here, only one president, and once they've done their 6 years, they can't run again.
Okay.
But he's going to try and get his daughter there because he's kind of like really making some big changes there in terms of the corruption and everything else. Whatever's going on that needs to be changed. So it's meant business.
That's good because even look at Russia. You know what I mean? They don't get a chance. They don't get a choice, honestly. You know what I mean? Here it is. We are
able to Putin ever since.
Until we die, right? So that's just what makes us so amazing, our democracy that, we get a choice. Right, we have a voice. Yeah, so that's just what makes us so amazing.
Yeah. I think maybe, I'm not sure why some of the, obviously there are black votes for Trump, like you mentioned. Lil Wayne has gone more Trump. I can understand going Republican because it might work out better because you're worried about your taxes, and Biden, the tax will go up.
Right, on certain ones, in certain states.
I would get a good accountant. That's what I would do. Just get a good accountant. Or because I've got citizenship in another country as well as, I was born and raised in the UK. But, I'll just get a little offshore thing and I won't have to pay any tax at all. But anyway, I'm telling you the legal way. Right. Of course, America's different. They do have an unfair tax system because if you went to work abroad, you have to pay the tax in that country and the US tax. Whereas I wouldn't have to do that, So it is a real unfair system. So taxes does make a big difference. And I think Biden will go up, so that the Republican leaning black voter like Lil Wayne, who's probably made a lot of money, is probably encouraged to go that side. I can understand that side of it.
But hold on, though.
Trump as a person.
But you're looking at taxes. Now, which way more, taxes or your life? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Obviously, I'm coming from the more your life. I'm coming from more your life because that's where I'm coming from.
Right.
I've been a trade union leader. Trade union leader, you're more like Bernie Sanders. It's like that. I'm working for a public service, emergency service, like hospitals are. You'll be thinking more like doctors and nurses that say, "Oh, don't worry about money. We're worried about people getting sick and dying from all this."
Right. So it's like you can have.
Of course, taxes. That's my mindset.
Right. You can have taxes.
Yeah, I'm just
and die, and then what?
I'm just saying about some of the Republican leading black voters, why they might go. It's the same in the UK, why they might go to the Conservatives. We call it Conservatives rather than the Labour, which you'll say is liberal,
Right.
So,
right. And
of course, I've come more.
Everybody have their own choice, right? The whole thing is you want people to get out and vote, right? And you have to vote off your best interest. But at the top, to
Yes.
me, it's like I said, it's life or death. Those are two. Then taxes and healthcare. You know,
Yeah.
and healthcare taxes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's why it's just kind of crazy for certain people just to say how they want to
Uh,
vote, who they want to.
I think this is probably the most. I mean, it's historical. I think the way the voting's going at the moment for US elections, presidential elections, it's going online as well as postal votes or whatever. There's long lines now. I've never heard of long lines. I don't know. You're American, so you know. You're from the US. So has there been long lines like that before for previous elections, or is it
Previous
people
election,
coming out and voting in droves?
no,
There has.
yeah, only time you're going to get a lot of voters, like I was telling you, is that major president elections, like in 2008 when Obama ran,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then when he ran again,
That's right.
everybody came out and voted, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Now we got everybody
Yeah.
coming out and voting now, which is awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. But I think you're seeing something a bit historical now about the amount of voters and the way it's being voted now. There's also some problems, obviously, with the kind of stuff that's going on social media and interference from other countries as well. So this is a real issue.
Yeah.
But
it's a lot. We gotta.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. All of this, when you go through experience, right? You look at no experience is a bad experience. You learn from it and you grow.
Yeah.
So us as Americans, during this process, we should be learning from it and growing so that we don't keep repeating history. That's the key right now. Because
that's the problem. History's been repeated.
exactly.
That's another thing about. That's a big. Now, luckily, it has been put on the agenda more than the previous elections, recent elections. Race has been put at the forefront, and even globally, everyone's looking at it because of the impact that's happened globally.
Right.
The UK is glad this has come because it's bringing our issues. It's brought out issues in Australia with the Aborigines. It's brought up issues in Brazil.
Right.
You know, people say it's. I think I mentioned it on your show. You know, it's elicited feelings. What's happening there, but looking at, we're going to support our brothers and sisters in what's going on with the situation in the US. You see what I mean? We're also supporting Black Lives Matter in that case, and everyone's coming out in it doesn't matter if it's blacks or whites. Everyone now is joining in with this more than it was before. Really, your big corporations having their say. You know.
Well, I mean,
it's quite interesting. So it's that
they know the corporations.
It's that.
Know the value of the dollar. They know we spend Black Americans, Black people, we spend money. You know what I mean? And some of them aren't joining the fight because they really care about Black lives, and some of them are worrying about the bottom line, the dollar. So you have, that's something that we have to know as people.
Yeah. And the other thing is a life and death situation, obviously because of the COVID, but also your hospital system as well,
right?
Which I think does need the healthcare system. I mean, obviously, healthcare as a nation is quite good. It's quite high tech, but you do need it balanced across the whole country and all the communities, don't you?
Yeah.
It's also very costly, whereas we don't pay for healthcare in the UK.
See?
And so it's one standard, and it's a good system. It's a good system we've got there, and it's tons of that. So when you look at the universal healthcare, we've got that in the UK, and obviously it comes out of taxes a little bit, but it's not. You don't really notice it really because it's something you're used to.
Right.
But you certainly don't want to be bankrupt over it, do you?
Yeah,
Some people can, depending on what illness you get. So it's a life and death situation with the voting as well. With those two things, and of course, the economy. If we talk about money, people are going to look at the economy. So
it's a lot.
So,
well, thanks for coming on our show. And
no, it's always good to talk to you, Pam.
All the time. And your podcast is available in the Apple Store, right? And Google Store.
It's Apple, Google, Spotify. Across most podcast apps, it's distributed. And of course, I put it on all my social media now. I'm actually going to blitz my social media with my podcast mainly. And then hopefully it'll be monetized through my coaching and a few other, hopefully, sponsors and mostly sponsors that are, in line with what I'm doing, really, and what I'm talking about. So hopefully it's going to grow just like your radio station will as well. So, great pleasure and honor to be on the show.
Anytime you want to come back, let me know and we'll arrange the setup.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me this time round, and it'll be a pleasure to come back again. I'm sure
All
there's
right.
lots of issues we can talk about after the election as well. So,
Trust me.
not just politics. I think we could talk about music and all the good stuff that's happening in life. In general.
Awesome. Awesome. All right.
Yeah.